This is the Merschman Seeks Ag Weather Outlook for March 3rd, 2018. I'm John Felt. Quite a busy week, especially if you were in the parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. Lots of rain, lots of flooding, lots of soggy, wet fields. I have a concern if that will last into the start of the growing season, which isn't all that far away. Let's take a look at the briefing. What we have this week is this pesky pattern that set up all the rain. Ridge of pressure, high pressure in the west, and what we have here, here's that ridge, here's that trough. That set up a temperature gradient right over the middle part of the Corn Belt. We had repeated rains along that boundary. That's why we've been so wet. But it does look like it's beginning to break down a bit. The temperature gradients aren't nearly as strong as we have had them. As a matter of fact, if you look across the current nation in the satellite picture, you see lots of clear skies for a change. That's sort of nice. Here's that nor'easter over off the east coast that we had the high tides in Boston, the winds, rain, and snow. But the big story over the last week was the soaking rain. Now, this has gone on for 2 or 3 weeks, especially over the eastern Corn Belt. Matter of fact, one of my listeners sent me an email and kept weather records for 23 years in Ohio, and said it was the wettest February in 23 years. So that gives you some idea how wet it's been over parts of the eastern Corn Belt. Now, the main action shifted down further south last week, 3 inches of rain to 5 inches of rain over parts of Arkansas into Tennessee. But still, right along the Ohio River, we still had another 2 inches of rain. Other parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, 1 to 3 inches of rain. Some of these areas, like southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, have been quite dry and have gone from dry to wet. Other areas have been pretty wet, like Ohio, and has gone from wet to even wetter. So the result has been pretty widespread flooding across the area. What we can see here is the areas that are hardest hit are in red or purple. Red is moderate flood, purple is major flood. The river's pretty much crested along the Ohio except for the very far lower reaches, and that will be working down through the lower Mississippi over the next week or even 2 weeks. Now, we can't forget about snow on the ground. There is some snow on the ground. It's not widespread, but it's probably enough that when it melts, it's going to cause some aggravation on tributaries. I like to look at sort of the brighter purple. So we look at parts of eastern North Dakota, parts of Minnesota, parts of northern Wisconsin. So when that melts, we're probably going to have tributary rises and even some rises on the upper Mississippi due to that. But I don't think it's widespread enough to necessarily cause all that significant main stem river flooding at this time. But a lot can change, including snow this week. So the departure from normal temperature, you can see that west-east boundary right here, warm in orange and yellow, colder in this green. So that's been the story. But like I said, it's starting to break up a bit. Now, because of all the rain, we've really changed the soil moisture in some areas. I wanted to sort of bring to your attention Arkansas. This was only a month ago. Look, it's been dry. Yellow and red's dry. And now it's really saturated. So big changes. Southeast Missouri also really dry, and it's gone to really wet. So if you're in southeast Missouri, you know what I mean. It's gone from super dry to really pretty soggy. Now, if you go up to the eastern Corn Belt, that was already, look at Ohio, a month ago, already trending a bit wet, and now it's very wet. Okay, like I said, it looks like the jet stream is going to straighten out this week, and that's going to give us a bit quieter weather, milder weather, temperatures generally near to a bit above normal. And as far as rainfall or snow goes, well, not a whole lot of rain. It's going to be quieter. There'll be some rain right along the Mississippi here. But this area up here is going to be probably the most interesting weather producer this week, from North Dakota, Minnesota, parts of Wisconsin, because that's going to come in the form of snow and very heavy snow. That's why I said we need to keep an eye on eastern parts of North Dakota and Minnesota and Wisconsin, because that's going to add up the snow in that area. It's probably going to give us a little bit increase in the possibility of flooding in that area due to this snow, especially coming late in the season. Now we're in the middle of March. Well, that pattern looks to me like it's not totally gone away. Here's your trough. Here's your ridge. It's not as strong here, but that trough is going to bring some cooler temperatures in towards the middle part of the month, it looks like. So we're not in a pattern necessarily that's going to be warm and dry out things all that much over the eastern Corn Belt. Going into the middle part of the month, it very well could be below normal temperatures still, and that's why I have that concern about maybe not getting in good enough shape as the start of the season with continuing soggy fields. March 13th through 18th, well, here we go. Not much change. Couple vulnerabilities I see here, possibilities, and that's way out there. One is if this area stays really cold up here, that's going to keep that snow into mid to late March, and that's going to really increase the vulnerability for flooding because it's going to melt very quick when it melts. I also think that this colder than normal pattern could keep those fields a bit wetter than they would be if it would be a bit milder. Now here's the good news. Good news is over the eastern Corn Belt, a very dry signal this week, yellow. So from the standpoint of no additional rain, at least it won't get worse. And week 2, I don't really see anything either. So overall, maybe not so bad. Temperatures aren't going to help us a whole lot dry out, but the lack of precipitation might. And just for the heck of it, here's weeks 3 and 4. It does show on the left here, this is temperature above normal temperatures in many areas. And unfortunately, maybe some more precipitation. So sort of mishmash of signs here as we go forward as far as the possibility of drying out. I think the most important one is no additional precipitation. So that's probably good that I don't see that, and that's going to let those rivers that have crested recede over the next week or two. I don't see anything at all on the horizon that would bring higher crests than we're seeing. So it looks like the stories this week are going to be the crests moving down the lower Mississippi with moderate to major flooding, as well as the heavy snow over parts of the upper Midwest, North and South Dakota, and Minnesota in particular. Have a great week. I will talk to you again next weekend.